Happy Wednesday on this bye week. Hi, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple for another edition here of Husker Online Headlines. We are a little bit earlier this week on all our shows. You know why?
Why?
Because we're gearing up for a big live show on Thursday. And again, you are all invited to join us Thursday night at the Zip Line Grill and Tap Room out there in Fallbrook. We're going to be on the air at 6 o'clock. Get out there obviously earlier. Last time we did one of these shows, we had around 200 to 300 people that showed up for it. So we're expecting another great crowd. They do have food specials available. I believe 3 tacos for $6.
That's pretty good.
And then the pints will be $3 as well. And they'll have canned beer available outside as well if you're not wanting to wait on a pint. So we'll be all set up, and there's going to be a lot of prizes they're going to give out.
Prizes.
The Nines store, they're a boutique store inside Fallbrook, has donated a gift basket to a lucky person in attendance, and obviously Zipline's got a lot of prizes. So
people like prizes, Sean.
we're gonna have great Husker talk in the midseason review, tacos, beer, prizes. Steve Sipple Harley rides.
Yeah, we're gonna give Harley rides. So this is the form of a mid-season review.
It's the midseason review show.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it. And
Hour long,
and similar format: opening headlines, offense, defense, Abby's mailbag, and then we'll do a Big Ten review. So
Abby will be there.
I don't overthink it.
No, you don't need to.
You keep it simple, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the bye week extravaganza.
Yes, it'll be fun. It'll be fun, and Abby will be there.
Abby will be there. Joseph, Carter.
Wow, everybody's going to be
the
there.
whole crew. The Harley.
Megan,
are you going to take the Harley out?
Maybe. I don't know yet. I just watched it yesterday.
I just envision you like with an entrance where you freaking like and you like pull in and get out.
That was interesting. That sound you just made.
That would be legendary if you did that. Just so you know.
Yeah,
but don't wear the 5-inch shorts. We've already discussed that.
I usually don't wear shorts on a Harley. You don't. You usually don't.
Good.
You burn your
Good.
legs.
5-inch shorts with you on a Harley.
You burn your legs on the pipe.
I might get the whole show at that point. I'm not ready for that. So, okay, let's get into that. Let's
deep issues.
Headline number 1. The Big Ten and the SEC athletic directors are meeting in Nashville Wednesday and Thursday. And look, I wanted to lead off with this, and you pushed back a little. You've now read up on what's going on in Nashville. This is a monumental 2-day meeting going on with the Big Ten and the SEC as Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti. And it's funny, with Kevin Warren now gone, these two guys become, kind of allies, colleagues, where there was no relationship with Sankey and Kevin Warren previously. But they know they control the future of the game because they control the television networks, they control the money, they have the institutions that have the biggest alumni bases that draw the largest television ratings, that draw the largest stadiums and crowds, and they're going to get together and collaborate with ideas. And, a couple of the things out there, number one, obviously they both want to be at the Big Ten would like the SEC to go to 9 conference games, which I think will happen, but they want to each guarantee themselves 4 playoff bids per league when the playoff goes to 14 teams. That would then allow you to schedule as aggressively as you want during the regular season to not preserve teams, knowing that you are guaranteed 4 spots. If Georgia goes 9-3, so be it. They'll make the playoffs still. And I think that's the whole point. By having better games played in the regular season with protected playoff spots, that's more money. That's more ratings. And then they want to also have maybe a non-conference scheduling agreement where they would play an SEC team every year in the Big Ten, vice versa. So there's a lot there. Even in basketball, there's some discussion about multi-team events. I envision stuff like, hey, go down to Kansas City and Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa, and Oklahoma, or Arkansas, whoever. Go down to Kansas City and play a 4-team multi-team event. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, there is. The reason I'm always resistant to this discussion is because you just threw out stuff, and people don't even know when they're going to expand to
2025,
and they don't know when. They don't even know what the current play. A lot of people, if you ask them on the street, they don't even know what the current system is. They know it's 12 teams, but they have no idea how.
Wait, do we get two years of 12 teams or just 1 year?
2025. They go to. There you go.
No. It's like, yeah. So there's 2 years of 12, and then the 2026 season would be the first year of 14.
Well, I'll have to check.
Well,
that.
this is 2024.
Right.
So
I think it goes.
I thought we were doing 2 years of 12.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I get it though. It is important, and the access. I've kind of come around to your way of thinking, I guess, that the Big Ten and the SEC should probably, when they go to 2014, when they go to 14 teams, they should probably get 4 each. And it's not even limited to 4.
Will there be wild cards?
They could get more than 4. I mean, and it makes sense. It does make sense. I mean, I sent you this article by John Wilner of the San Jose Mercury News. And why does it make sense that the ACC and the Big 12 would be limited in this discussion? Because with so many traditional powers concentrated in the Big 10 and the SEC, the quality of play is going to be higher in the SEC and the Big 10. The weekly competition's stronger than anywhere else. So it's just, Sean, when I push back on it, it's simply because of this. I don't like a world where like these traditional, deeply rooted universities that aren't quite up to snuff of what you see in the Big Ten, the SEC, like say North Carolina, Duke, Georgia Tech, just kind of get left in the wake. I grew up at a time when there were, I would be interested in what Wyoming was doing. I'd be interested in what
BYU
was doing. BYU will be, BYU is actually a very good example.
Well, Georgia Tech won a national championship in the early 90s.
Right. Now we kind of espouse this system that was probably going to leave those teams in the wake most of the time. So I guess I get it. I totally get it. And I understand completely why Sankey and Tony Petitti would make the demands that they're going to make eventually. And by the way, these meetings will include the ADs. It's not just Sankey and Petitti.
Troy Dannon. They left about noon on Thursday.
Okay, so it's happening tomorrow.
No, today. I mean, there's some stuff tonight on Wednesday.
Okay, so that's where I get it. I do get it. It's fascinating though, and there's so many ramifications.
Yeah, Dannon was scheduled to speak in Springfield at the Springfield Legion Thursday night, but the meetings now are going to run even later than anticipated Thursday. So Haven Fields is going to replace Dan, and I know for Springfield Legion's event, because these meetings are that big. I mean, there's going to be a full slate of things on Thursday, and obviously some things for these guys on Wednesday to discuss. But even a bowl game partnership's on the table where the SEC and the Big Ten exclusively might play each other in bowl games. Because, think about some of the bowl games now. Like, what's the point of the Big Ten going to Detroit to play a MAC team? Mm-hmm. Like, Minnesota played Central Michigan in the bowl game.
I know.
Like, what's the benefit of that?
Well,
there's no benefit.
Here's what's going to happen, though. So the playoff's going to go to 14 teams in 2 years. And then it's going to go to, it's not going to stop at 14.
16.
They don't go to 16. They'll probably go to 20. I think it could go to 24. And then the bowls are useless. That's I'm not pushing back on that, by the way, but I don't.
It's the grip they
the
have
are going away.
Well, the problem is the rose, the orange, the cotton, the fiesta, the sugar, in the peach to an extent, but those those bowl games are the history of college football. They controlled the championship of college football because the NCAA wasn't even really established when those bowls existed. And you'd go to those games, and if you won a championship.
You know what I'm talking about, though, Sean? The bowls not those bowls, the bowls that Nebraska currently is scratching to get in, I don't know if they're going to be around in 15 years.
Well, and that's why if you match SEC Big Ten teams together, at least you draw a television rating and you might have a better chance to draw. But like having Nebraska play Wake Forest and Charlotte, who 5 years from now, what's that doing for anybody?
Nothing.
So I think that's the reality of
that's the reality.
Like having Boston College play Iowa in New York City. Like, I mean, those games in this current model aren't the same. I still question too, can you have these fan bases theoretically travel 3 bowl games in a row because you'll have potentially a home game for the playoff, your first game, or even a road game.
Okay.
Then you play in a neutral site, bowl game site in the quarters.
Right.
Then a neutral game, bowl game site in the semis, and a neutral game championship site. Like, how many people can afford that?
Right. Or could just do it.
And people will afford it. You find ways to afford it, but because these games mean that much to people, but it's a lot.
It is. I'm open-minded, and I like college football right now. I just don't know what it's going to look like in the future. Not in a bad way, because so far so good. But man, you're right. These are critical decisions that have to be made.
Just think about Tom Osborne and Harvey Perlman getting Nebraska to the Big Ten, though, and how big that is now.
It's big.
Because if they didn't have the foresight to recognize what was happening to the Big 12 back in 2009, when they officially went in 2010, who knows where Nebraska's at?
I know. It's okay. Think about this conversation we're having, and we always do this thing where we say all the power is going to be concentrated in the SEC and Big Ten, which is probably what we're talking about. But put it in the context of what Matt Rule said earlier this week, where he said with NIL and the transfer portal, talent is being spread all over, and that there's not going to be those dominant teams necessarily that there has been, or Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, and then maybe Clemson, and then maybe one other like a Notre Dame sneaks in there, Michigan sneaks in there. You may not have that anymore. So if I'm an ACC or Big 12 team, I'm thinking, okay, now wait a second. On one hand, we have this new system that's allowing us to have comparable talent to the SEC and Big 10 teams. Yet at the same time, they're trying to push us out. I mean, they're trying to limit our access and expand there.
Now, yeah, what will be their guaranteed bids? Will they get one or two?
They should get two. Now, I always in this position.
So then what's Notre Dame do then?
I get in this position where I'm kind of defending those teams. And I know you don't like that, but I'm not just thinking about the Big Ten. I'm thinking about in the SEC. I'm thinking about the greater good. And I don't know if if you limit ACC access to one bid, no, I just don't think that's healthy.
Well, what if Florida State and Clemson leave? Then who are the two teams that are at that caliber?
Well, I can't address hypotheticals. I don't, what if, I don't
but
know.
If those two teams leave, that's not the same league.
Well, of course not, but they haven't left. And I don't know that Florida State's in position to leave anymore, really.
It's amazing. One bad season just like takes them out of position.
One, but it's not just one bad season. It's one catastrophic season. I mean, they're 1-5.
Where on Nebraska's case, I find it fitting that Ndamukong Suh was here this weekend as we're discussing this, because it was his great season in 2009
that put him in,
that rose Nebraska's star to make them very attractive to the Big Ten. The Big Ten thought they were going to get an Ndamukong Suh level Nebraska every year.
Right. Okay, so I'm glad that Megan put this graphic on here, because it gives you the teams that we're talking about, where you're talking about this college football world where a lot of people are okay with it just having it like be so dominant SEC Big Ten. It leaves like schools like Pitt and Virginia Tech. These schools have been important to college football for years and years. They're deeply rooted. And it seems like there's just this willingness to shove them aside because of what?
Money.
Yeah.
But the system now of this playoff going to 3 or 4 possible games, very few teams are going to be built to win 3 or 4 games.
Right.
Like that's where it's going to weed out everybody. Like you cannot be a pretender or like a team with lesser talent and win 3 or 4 games like that. You can do Boise State over Oklahoma in a 1-game scenario in a Fiesta Bowl, but not 3 or 4 times in a row. And that's where Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State have the big advantage that they are built to maybe not play their best ball and still win.
Right now, they are.
Yes.
Right now.
They have the best rosters. I mean, they can win 3 or 4 in a row. How many teams can you say like, yeah, they're built to win 3 or 4 playoff games?
Like whereas Boise State, like I saw a projection that would have Boise State playing Georgia in the first round of a playoff right now. Georgia's built to last. Boise State not built to push through the playoffs.
It's just like college basketball. How many teams are built to get to the second weekend, the third weekend?
Well, now hold on. I mean, think about who's won it lately, like San Diego State. That you wouldn't have guessed maybe that they were built
to make the Final Four.
Right. Win it.
They didn't win it. Didn't they get beat by UConn?
Yeah, UConn won it. But yeah, they did make the Final Four. I go back. I'm going back to what rules said. I don't, Sean. I agree with you that right now Georgia, there's a limited number of teams that are built to
win 3 or 4 in a row.
But I think the way it's going, and if you listen to Rule on Monday, just talking about the impact of NIL and the transfer portal, that now there's players available to Nebraska that might not have been available to them in previous years. They might just been an automatic Georgia.
Sierra Wright.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the guy that was a top 100 player, you got him on the rebound.
So what I'm suggesting is I think in 10 years, there will be more teams than just a few that could push through a playoff.
But for those teams to have the money to adequately pay those players, where the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have an advantage to always have the money to pay.
See, it's sticky. That's now this is, you know what this all goes back to too, Sean? You hear guys like Gundy, other coaches have said there needs to be a commissioner, a czar, not just Sankey and Petiti and, trying to accumulate all the power.
And that's what they want to do. I mean, Sankey just said, why would I allow other people to come up to our level? We've worked really hard to get to this level. Right. Why would I just give you a free pass?
Well, what I would say to Sankey is this. Do you like college football? Do you like it? You're a 50-some-year-old or 60-some-year-old. Did you enjoy college football as you were growing up? Don't you want it to have some degree of semblance to what you grew up watching, a great product? Or do you just want it to become a matter of concentrated wealth in 2 conferences where what, and Sean, they have threatened. Okay. Now I would ask you this. They have Big Ten and SEC have threatened to break off. How would you feel about that?
It'd be like an NFL. Well, it's out of my control.
But as a fan, can't you just put yourself in a fan's shoes? You're a fan.
Well, they still would play really good football games that would fill stadiums. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't see that happening. But you think about man, we're going way long on headline 1, by the way. Like this is a long headline. But yeah, let's move it on here. Right, I mean, because if I go on this take, you're going to go 5 more minutes. Look, we've established you're not comfortable with it, but it is happening. Like you have to come to terms with it.
Well, I've come to terms.
Like you may not like it, but it's happening.
What's happening?
This SEC Big Ten takeover.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they're moving their armies through, and they're taking over. I mean, they're having a meeting in Switzerland right now. All right. Before we take it to headline number 2, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Nebraska Synthetic Greens. They are the leading premium artificial grass golf green playground and sport field installer in Nebraska. You got some extra yard land that you live on that you want to put a golf green in, they can do it for you. And they can actually simulate, PGA holes that you know of and want to have in your backyard. They have different designs and ideas where you can put an actual PGA level hole in your backyard. They can put turf down on your playground for you. So you don't have to mow around your playground. It's cleaner. It's safer for your kids. They've got it all at Nebraska Synthetic Greens. Check them out on their website at nebraskasyntheticgreens.com. This is a local Nebraska-based company doing top-notch, first-quality work. Thank you to Nebraska Synthetic Greens for sponsoring us here on the HuskerOnline Show. Yeah, I need that in my life.
See, you know what I envision? You going out there on a green like that, and you know where you would come up with ideas for your columns? Doing, putting around, chipping off that grass onto the green, just milling around out there in a peaceful environment. And you'd probably come up with 3 ideas in about a half hour.
What kills me is, we live by the old Knowles golf course in Lincoln.
Is it still open?
No, it's gone.
I did not know that.
It's been gone for a long time.
Okay.
Don't you remember I gave you the tip on that for the Journal-Star?
Oh, that's right. A while ago, yes.
When they closed it down, but I live so close to there that we were members there back in the day. Now I could almost walk there, and if we had that, you could get 9 holes in on that par 3 in less than an hour.
You guys remember it once upon a time
at the Knowles? Yeah,
really. So how long ago was that?
Well, I was probably a 5 or 6 year member there. Then it closed.
So it wasn't that long ago.
No, but it was a phenomenal just to have access to get to a green and it was the best I ever got at golf.
Wow.
And my good friend Sean Kruger was he's like a scratch, and he took me under his wing to play in a league.
You'd be good if you ever played because you're athletic.
Well, I would call myself athletic, but I have to practice. I can't just.
Nobody can.
No, I mean Jay Moore, like for as good as he is, like on bigger wrap up, I mean he has to play a lot to maintain that level.
Every day.
Not as much as he used to.
Really?
But yeah, there was a time where he was playing like every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work and commitment to get to that level.
Yeah.
All right, let's take it to headline number 2. Sizing up Nebraska's remaining schedule. Huskers 5-1 at the bye. About where you'd hoped and thought they could be. Maybe 6-0 was possible.
Yeah.
But now you look at this back half of the schedule. On the road at Indiana, 11 a.m. kick. On the road at Ohio State. So back-to-back road games, then a home game against UCLA, then a bye before USC, then you go to USC, and then you go to Wisconsin. Wisconsin comes here, and then Iowa at night. So on paper, there's probably only 2 games of the 6 that Nebraska will be Vegas favorites in, UCLA and Wisconsin. We know they're at least an early 3.5-point dog at Indiana, and that may go up. Ohio State, they're going to be a dog. At USC, they're going to be a dog. And at Iowa, they're probably going to be a slight dog as well. So the metrics say they're going to go 2-4. What says you? Well,
I saw you on the chat today, on our HuskerOnline chat. You said the margins are really slim. The margins for error. That's what we're talking about. You could easily see Nebraska winning 4 of those games.
2 to 4 games.
Yeah, 2 to 4. But that's the key. Would it be 2 or would it be 4? And therein lies the
margin of error range is significant. Like,
yeah, I really believe. I mean, come on, in college football, momentum is gigantic. If you can beat Purdue, Rutgers, and then get one at Indiana, you got serious momentum going to Ohio State, and you don't know. You never know. Nebraska's defense, if it's what I think it is, it'll always be in every game.
Well, what happens to Ohio State at Oregon this weekend, too? I mean, there's a lot of things.
Watch it close.
Like, Ohio State hasn't played anybody good yet.
Nope. They've had what'd you say? Their 109th strength.
And Indiana's got the 108th.
So watch, if I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm watching Ohio State really closely this weekend. I'm watching USC against Penn State really closely. We'll get into that later.
Like, I think Will Howard's a good quarterback, but by no means, when I compare him to past Ohio State quarterbacks, do I think he's better than the guys they've had before.
Right. Oh, I totally agree. Now, I do want to establish Ohio State. Many people would say they're the best team in the country. 2 elite running backs, 3 or 4 elite receivers. Well, yeah, Jeremiah Smith might be the best receiver in the country as a freshman.
Elite pass rushers.
Yeah, so back to the schedule. God, if you get Indiana and get to 6-1, I mean, you're just at that point. Anything seems kind of possible at that point. Like, if they get to 6-1, you start thinking about playoff a little bit. If you're a Nebraska fan, does Nebraska? We'll get into Nebraska have that kind of offense? Can get the special teams in shape? I don't know, but I think we can say that the defense is. I think you could say the defense is that level of defense, but it's always a week-to-week discussion. Let's see what they got against Indiana.
I love that Cignetti's got that team 6-0. I got it right, didn't I?
Yes, week. Kurt Cignetti, yes.
Michael Severe did a prank on me today. He said there's an Indiana fan that's clipping all the ways you mispronounce his name, and they're sending it to the staff as motivation.
Oh, that was
and I thought he was for real. I'm like,
God. Well, at one point you said Skinetti.
Spaghetti.
Cignetti. Why do you like that there's
because rolling? The focus level for Nebraska. Like,
yes.
Like you're not this is not like a 3-3 Indiana team where you think that, all right, we're gonna go out there and win. Uh-huh. Like you're kind of going out there as the dog.
Yep. Oh God, that's a great point.
And Rule can sell that all these next 2 weeks that let's go out there and show them who we are. Let's play our game.
Think about the world, how much has changed. See what we're talking about right now? Think about it in the context of 20 years ago. We're talking about Nebraska going to Indiana as an underdog and a legit underdog. Take it another step, Sean. We're talking about 5-1 Nebraska going to Indiana as an underdog. Talk about the world changing. That's incredible.
When you think about Indiana's program, I mean, they've had some moments. Like DeBoer was the offensive coordinator. They probably had the right guy on their staff that should have been the head coach.
They haven't had many moments though.
Antoine Randall L. And then
what year was that?
In the 90s.
Yeah, in the 90s.
And then Lee Corso's is like obviously
70s
tied to, even though he didn't win in Indiana.
Right.
But like those are the three things I recently think about Indiana. Lee Corso's, Antoine Randall L. And then obviously DeBoer being there with Michael Penix.
Yeah, that they had some teams there.
Penix played in Lincoln in 2019,
yeah,
right?
They were all right.
But you would have never have known in 2019 that Penix was going to be a first-round pick and DeBoer was going to be the coach of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and DeBoer was Tom Allen's OC.
Yeah.
But all right.
Yeah, so sizing it up, well, for one thing, it's really exciting. I mean, it's going to be because all these games are going to be close. Maybe with the exception of Ohio State. You're just not going to know. Can Nebraska beat USC on the road? Of course they can. Of course they can.
I hope that Ohio State game's at 11 because the one time Nebraska actually had a chance to win out there was in 11. When they've played out there at night, even with some ranked Nebraska teams, they've got their clocks cleaned.
It's a different atmosphere for sure. I mean, the one thing we can say definitively, when you go out there for an 11 a.m. game, the stadium's not sold out. There's empty seats. It's
a rugged, like blue collar crowd too. I mean, they're in you. I mean, it's not.
That's at night. During the day, it's still a rugged blue collar crowd, but it's comparatively tame as most places are during the day. But at Ohio State, it's really stark how much different it is in terms of difficulty during the day. I just want to emphasize it's not sold. I mean, it might be sold out, but
there'll be some no shows.
A lot of empty seats.
Well, getting into that stadium absolutely stinks. Like the drive-in.
Oh God, it does.
I mean, it's like you're checking into a military base.
Yeah.
There's like tanks and checkpoints, and I mean, it's insane amount just to get to your parking spot.
It's rough.
I mean, like there's German I mean, it's like, where are we going here?
Right.
Like a football game, but yeah, their level of security at the Horseshoe is next level.
Sean, you're right though. Nebraska doesn't want a night game there.
No, nobody does.
No, it's one of the greatest examples I've seen. Memorial Stadium is
Penn State. We've only played there once at night, and that was 2002.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want any part of that ever again.
No, that's hardcore. Nebraska's like that too, though. Nebraska's much different at night.
2002 Penn State at night.
Oh God.
Like that was one of their first night games. They didn't have a lot of night games.
So that was Larry Johnson running all over the field.
Yeah.
That was Jamal Lord as a young quarterback is one of his
Tamba Ali was on the Chiefs edge guy who played for that team.
Yeah, they were good. And Jamal wasn't ready for it. That's what I remember. His eyes were just huge.
Oh, nobody was ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was you didn't really realize what those big stadiums were like at that time because Big Ten teams didn't play night games back then.
That's right. It was wicked. And Ohio State's that way too, but
Michigan not so much.
At night.
Well, Michigan,
they don't really.
Ward Manuel, among many of his requests, is not to really play a lot of night. They'll play 2 night games a year.
Many requests.
2 night games a year is the max they'll play, and I think one of them has to be early.
Now, we don't need to bicker over this. I get this a lot from people that say that, and other people I've worked with too, that Michigan's quiet, it's not allowed. I just don't understand it. I've been there. It's tough. That's a tough place to play.
The sound travels up though. There's not like Nebraska Stadium has the walls,
right?
And it brings the sound in. Michigan Stadium is like an Olympic bowl.
Yeah, it probably goes up. Man, I think it's still done.
It does. The sound doesn't stay in.
Okay.
Arrowhead Stadium is an example of a stadium where the sound really stays in. That's loud. That might be the loudest stadium in the country. When the Chiefs are rolling and whatnot. But all right, before we take it to headline number 3, Husker Online headlines brought to you by HelloFresh. And let me tell you more about HelloFresh. We've been using HelloFresh now for the last year plus, and they make it so fun, so easy. You get on the app, you tell them how many meals a week you want. Do you want 2? Do you want 3? Do you want 4? You're cooking for 2. You're cooking for 4. Whatever the number is. What kind of meals do you want? Do you want quick and easy meals? Do you want steak? Do you want seafood? Do you want chicken? Do you want pork? Healthier meals? You name it. You kind of custom pick what you want, and then they give you about 40 options to pick for your meals that week. And you kind of know what you want. You know what your family likes, and you pick those options, and they send them to your house on, it was Tuesdays for us, in a cooler box, and everything's at your door wrapped up in a big cooler, and you're set for the week. You don't have to go to the grocery store. They make it so easy. You know, you get all your produce, all your spices, all your vegetables, all your meats, and an easy to follow recipe card to get all your cooking done. And with the cost of grocery shopping now and just the hassle to go to the grocery store, this saves you a lot of time.
That's a good point.
To use HelloFresh. And we've got a great deal. We're going to give you 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freehusker. So go to HelloFresh.com/freehusker, and we are going to give you 10 free meals applied across the 7 boxes for new subscribers only. It varies by plan. That's 10 free meals at HelloFresh Meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/freehusker. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. Okay, headline number 3, Nebraska's mid-season report card and superlatives. Let's go. Offensive player of the year. I mean, I think we probably both agree here, but is Dylan Raiola your mid-season offensive player of the year?
Doesn't he have to be?
I mean, I don't know who would be your runner-up at this point. Ja'Cory Barney?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yes.
I mean,
there's though. The problem is there isn't anybody obvious that presents himself. You'd hope that like Banks
or Naor
would be those guys, or Fedoni. You know,
yeah. I just Fedoni has only had 14 catches.
He's 5th on the team in catches. You can't sell him as a mid,
and no running back has really emerged. So it's probably Raiola than Barney.
Yeah.
Now, defensive player of the year, I think it's a tough one between Ty Robinson and John Bullock.
Yes, it is.
That's a tough argument.
Yeah, Sierra Wright's kind of poked his head in there.
And Sierra Wright,
he's poked his head in that conversation. He's just poked his head. I'll go Bullock, because Bullock's just, if you just look at overall impact through all the games, through 6 games, Bullock has had a bigger impact than Ty Robinson, although Ty Robinson's really come on, I'd say, the last couple games.
Yeah, I thought the Illinois game, Robinson kind of was not a factor where Bullock was, but I still think the impact of Robinson probably won them the Rutgers game and helped win them the Colorado game.
Yeah, the Rutgers game really helped.
And the Purdue game.
Yeah, those games really helped Ty's stock. But I just don't think I think he got nipped at the finish line in this conversation by Bullock.
Bullock's playing at an outstanding level.
Yeah, he came up. He was like, okay, I'm going to do one of your analogies. He was like the horse. Ty Robinson was like the horse coming on the outside late that you think, oh, maybe he'll get to the leader. No, he didn't. He didn't get to Bullock. Bullock he was the leader, and he's still the leader. John Bullock, never would have guessed it. If you would have said to me, going into the season, Sip, who do you think who do you think will be the MVP of the defense at midseason? I probably would have picked 3 or 4 guys ahead.
Even Tommy Hill.
I would have for sure picked Ty ahead of him.
And Nash.
I would have picked Nash ahead of him. I might have picked Jamari Butler ahead of him. I would have picked Tommy Hill ahead of him. So that's 5.
The thing about Nash, Hutmacher, is he plays a position that generally doesn't garner stats.
Right.
You're taking on a lot of bodies.
They have moved him around more, though. He's not just plug in the middle as much. But you're right. It's the same with Ty, kind of. Ty's just seemingly a little bit more. Well, he's bigger and more athletic than Nash. Jamari Butler, I expected more from him.
He's hurt.
He's playing hurt.
All right, surprise player. I mean, for me, it's Sierra Wright. You can make a case for James Williams, but I don't look at him as a surprise. But I think the production of what he's been able to do, you have to argue that is a surprise.
Right. I am going with Sierra, but yeah, I think, see, now it gets kind of tough because these are subjective conversations. You knew about James Williams. I knew about James Williams. I hyped up James Williams. What I would say about James Williams is, what took you so long? You know, why?
Well, the Illinois game, he had a rough game. I mean,
right.
Like Illinois schemed around him almost.
I thought we'd see these now, and I don't say that necessarily in a negative sense. I just had that. I had a vision of Williams being a dynamic player, a game changer from the start. And it's really just been the last couple games, right?
Yeah, James Williams in 107 snaps total. he's produced 20 quarterback pressures. So he produces a pressure almost 20% of the time.
Yeah. So
7 QB hits, 9 hurries, 4 sacks. Ty Robinson, PFF has him at 3. I know the Big Ten in Nebraska lists him at 4 sacks. Ty Robinson's produced 13 hurries and 4 QB hits.
So back to the Wright-Williams discussion. For us, Williams really didn't come out of nowhere because the coaches were telling us I'm not going to do it. The coaches were telling us in June about Williams. Wright didn't join the team until July, right? Right?
Sear Wright didn't come until like after July.
He kind of has come out of nowhere in a sense. Like we weren't hearing much about him in camp, right? And then it kind of it had to be late in camp where he really found a groove, is my guess.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at the numbers here. So Nebraska is actually on the same amount of pace they were a year ago for sacks. They have 20 right now. A year ago,
the Big Ten.
They have, and a year ago they finished with 40.
God, they're on that.
So some of those sack numbers that are currently in the stats, they're going to slow down because everybody gets numbers in non-conference games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was one year when Bill Callahan was a coach where Nebraska played Maine, and they got it was
like 9 sacks,
a ridiculous number of sacks.
I think they got 9 that day or 7.
And they finished that year with over 50.
God dang, people are going to kill you. They kill us on the fact checks.
Severe's already texted you.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. Did they get 9 against Maine? It was a crazy number. Maybe it was.
It was a lot.
Yeah,
and that number though helped Nebraska lead the league all year. So sometimes you can have a fluky game that you kind of lead the stats in. So last year they had 226 QB pressures as a team in 12 games. This year at the halfway point they're at 119. So Nebraska's on a pace to produce more QB pressures than a year ago.
Yeah, we'll see what that looks like. But I mean, the fact that Nebraska at the midway point of the season leads the Big Ten in sacks and TFLs they should be very proud of that. I mean, we do this thing where and I think any fan base, any media corps that covers the team does it, where you tend to
praise your opponent,
emphasize the negative. I mean, you look at things that are going wrong more than what's going right, but there's plenty that's going right, especially on the defense.
Okay, let's take it to headline number 4. Before I get to that, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by CHI Health Clinic and Family Health Center. They're offering drive-up care right now. You can get your flu vaccine without leaving your car. If you have the flu or you need a COVID or strep test, all the swabs, they can all do it from the comfort of your vehicle. In Lincoln, drive-up care is offered at the Family Health Center at 40th and Yankee Hill and at CHI Health Clinics at their multiple locations across Nebraska. For a location near you, visit chihealth.com/family health center. Now is the time to get vaccinated for the flu. You can sign up for CHI's Health's drive-up flu clinic at any of their Lincoln or Omaha locations. Visit chihealth.com/flu to get a location and a time near you. Then all you need to do is pull up to your designated spot in the clinic, in the parking lot, with a completed consent form you do online, stay in your car, and they come right to you. Drive-up care is one of the many conveniences offered at our Family Health Center. Other great features include an on-site pharmacy, making and picking up prescriptions a breeze, state-of-the-art x-ray technology, and lab services, and performed on the same building, not across town. And again, I had to go over to CHI again on Tuesday. My daughter had some ear infection, and we got in and out with pharmacy drugs in 30 minutes, no appointment.
And on to school she goes.
And she was at school at 9:30.
Good.
We had to go home for a minute and take the medicine, but she was fine.
Take the medicine.
All the swimming that she does, she got some ear infections.
Oh God, yes.
We stopped in there and they made it easy. No appointment, got everything done in one stop, and she was back at school ready to go. So thank you to CHI Health for sponsoring us here on HuskerOnline Headlines. All right, headline number 4, Week 7 is appointment viewing in the Big Ten Conference in terms of the games on TV. And obviously the big one, Ohio State, Oregon. It is in Eugene. It is a night game. There's a lot there that could lean somebody to probably pick Oregon to win this game right now.
Really? Sell me on that, because I wouldn't do that.
they're at home. It's loud. Ohio State hasn't played any quality opponents yet. So I just think, and I do think it helps that Oregon has been tested a little bit.
Oregon's been a little shaky, though.
Well, I think the Boise State and the Idaho games, gave them a little bit more grit.
Okay.
They played well, and they won those games.
I've been so bad predicting games. I don't even know if I want to go
Sipple went 0 for 6 on the spread last week.
And I just heavily touted Missouri to beat A&M.
All of us kind of picked, man, that's a bad loss for Drinkowitz.
Yes. Anyway,
Oregon is a 3.5-point dog, but
okay, it's a big game. It's a big game for Nebraska fans to watch because you're trying to size up Ohio State. You have a shot against them. Check it out. Just watch it closely.
Washington, Iowa, big noon kickoff on Pretty Fox. Big. And I'm interested in that game because these are the games that Iowa has always won. They win a game like this at home, backs against the wall, and then they always kind of find their way to like a 9-3 record. Can they win this game? Washington just beat Michigan.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Washington this year to know. And how do you know too much about Washington anyway? Because I got a whole new roster. I mean, I like Iowa.
God, that Jed Fish.
Yeah, he's a good coach. I like Iowa. I like the established program against the team that's still kind of trying to find its way.
That Jed Fish, O.J. Simpson trial story never gets old.
Oh, that Jed Fish posed as a.
So he was in L.A. as a student, or I don't know what he was doing at the time, but he was fascinated, like the rest of the country was, with the O.J. Simpson trial. He dressed himself up in full suit and tie. Mm-hmm. And when O.J.'s defense team walked in, which there were several of them, he just walked up with them in their group and walked into the courtroom with O.J. Simpson's defense team.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is an unbelievable story.
That is. Well, we'll see if he can pull this off.
See if he can walk into Iowa City, pull off a win against a good defense.
Yeah. Not a good offense.
You know what, though? You hear about all these teams transitioning from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. Like a team like Iowa, it's such a new team, new coaches, mm-hmm. new players. Mm-hmm. You can't even really look at them as a traditional Pac-12 team.
No, not really.
Because a lot of their players weren't even around.
Right. That's what I mean.
Their coaches weren't around.
That's why I'm saying it's hard to read these games. I mean,
Wisconsin at Rutgers. That is a 11 a.m. game on the BTN. And I think we'll both be watching that too, just to kind of see how good Rutgers is and get a measurement on Wisconsin.
You will have to fight off sleep a little bit on that one. If you're still
it's flipping. You'll be flipping.
Yeah. I'm interested in the game, but it'll be exceedingly boring. I mean, the way especially Rutgers plays. Okay. I do this thing where people think I dislike Purdue at a high level. I don't. I just don't respect them. I respect Rutgers, but I hate the way they play. I wouldn't want. I don't like. It's not appointment viewing to me ever to watch Rutgers football because it's so boring. It's boring to watch.
They muddy it up.
Clock. It's just boring football.
It's like watching a pickup truck get stuck in mud and you're just trying to push it out.
Yeah, will they get it out?
And they often figure out ways. Yeah. They've been figuring out ways to get out of the mud.
Actually, more interesting than watching Rutgers. Keep going.
Penn State at USC.
That's the one.
And I do find it fascinating that this game is being played at United Airlines Field at the LA Coliseum because of all the travel stuff. James Franklin kind of, I don't want to say had some egg on his face, but a lot of pushback for just talking about how hard the travel is for them to get to this game because they're not able to get the plane they need out of state college to fly to LAX. So they have to drive to Harrisburg.
Yeah.
And then, they're going to fly out on Thursday, a day early. It's a 5.5-hour flight, mm-hmm. but this is what we signed up for.
Yeah, he might not have, but that's what his school signed up
but
for.
It's one extra day of your year.
Right.
No. For millions of more dollars.
Right. Oh, it's not a great look for a guy making, what's he probably making 10 million
but
or close.
The whole putting not pressure, but getting the Penn State College Airport to expand its runway. I mean, that's not cheap.
No. Okay, now here's the deal. This is the game that's most interesting to me. Not Oregon, Ohio State. This is the game that's most interesting to me. Partly because just think about Penn State and its tradition going to USC. I mean, all the logos not that Penn State has a logo, but the uniforms together. So some of it's that, but also these are huge. This is a huge game for these programs.
USC can get back in the playoff mix because they have Notre Dame on their schedule later on in the year too.
Yeah, USC's sort of, I mean, they got 2 losses. Okay. You think USC can get in the playoffs?
Yes. If they win this game, beat Notre Dame, that's 2 playoff wins already.
Okay,
beat Nebraska.
Yeah, they've lost to Minnesota and Michigan.
Yeah, but I'm saying if they go 10-2,
yeah, then they'd be back. Big if.
I don't know who they play though the rest of their season.
Big if. Well, they play Penn State, and Penn State's a 5.5-point favorite. Now it's big for Penn State because Penn State hasn't looked like a top 5 team. Granted, they've won all their games, so they're doing what they have to do. Can they go into USC with a good rushing attack? The nation's 18th ranked rushing attack. Those 2 good running backs that you watched at the Chicago airport against Illinois. Can they go in there against a USC defense that ranks, I think it's 87th nationally against the run? USC is not a physical team. They lost to Michigan because they couldn't tackle Mullins late.
And that's when you bring a lot of transfer players in like USC does, it's kind of hard to build that like Nash Hutmacher, Ty Robinson girth up front.
Well, they tried. It's interesting. USC tried to go into the portal
and buy some linemen,
and they didn't. They struck out. But they're not bad. It's hard. But they're better defensively now. Danton Lynn, I say it all the time, Sean. First of all, he's done a great job with their defense. He's going to be a head coach within 2 years. Danton Lynn will be a head coach, mark my words. He's got the defense playing like it's better than serviceable. But again, 87th against the run's not great. I just don't. I guess what I'm getting at is, can USC hang in there and take those punches? Now, on the other hand, Penn State's going to have to score. Can they score? Like, could they score 28 points? 31 points? I don't know. That's the game I'm most interested in partly because you'll get a good idea about Nebraska's chances at USC in this game.
And then 2 other games you're probably not as interested in. Purdue at Illinois. I think I'm interested in if Illinois can hammer Purdue.
Now, wouldn't it be confusing?
That's a 19.5-point line.
Would it be confusing to you if they don't? Yes.
Yeah, it's in Champaign.
Yeah, wouldn't it be confusing if Purdue goes out there and pushes them or wins?
Well, Purdue elevated an analyst who was a former high school coach, their new offensive coordinator. I mean, yeah, that typically works out, doesn't it?
No. Against Bielema?
Against Wisconsin, they got smoked.
Right. If the world if you're
Minnesota, UCLA is their other game, by the way.
Ooh, what is it?
Minnesota at UCLA.
Ooh, that's interesting. These are all interesting.
Well, UCLA, Stephen M. Sipple is 1-4.
Right. It's still interesting though.
1-4.
And what's Minnesota? 3-3.
3-3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for PJ Fleck, if they can get this win, all of a sudden he's maybe got his team above water where they can get to a bowl game at least.
Yeah.
You know, for a point there, it looked like they were not going to make a bowl, but getting that win against Michigan or getting that win against USC, and they could have beat Michigan. I mean, it's so unpredictable.
So you start to wonder if these teams like UCLA and Purdue are just going to lay down, you know, and then what do you do with Ryan Walters? I think we know what's going to happen with Ryan Walters, but I'm not talking about this Sean Foster getting fired, but Sean, put yourself in the shoes of a UCLA fan and put yourself in the shoes of a UCLA fan who thinks back to Big Ten media days and what a train wreck that was for Deshaun Foster, where he kind of froze, you know, and had that kind of bizarre podium appearance. And you kind of wondered about him right there. And now you really wonder, right? And what happens if they just quit? You know, now they didn't look like a team that was quitting last week against Penn State. But how far are they from that?
Yeah, measure that against like 2018 Nebraska, who started out 0-6 with Frost, but they never quit. That was the difference. Right. And they actually started to play really good football at the end of the year.
God, that's a good point.
So like, there's
a good point.
There's examples of teams coming out of it.
Yeah, so maybe that's what Purdue will do. Maybe that's what UCLA will do.
All right. Before we go to our final headline, again, join us at Zipline this week. We're going to be out there on Thursday for the live show starting at 6 o'clock. $6 tacos, 3 tacos are $6.
Three tacos for $6. That's a good deal.
$3 pints of Zipline. They're gonna have canned beer, prizes, Harley rides from Steve Sipple.
Easy on that. People are gonna expect me to do that.
Pony rides.
It's not gonna be pony rides.
So we're also brought to you by who?
Larson Motors, if you're looking for a new vehicle, Sean, I don't know if you are, go for a new experience at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. It's one of the Midwest only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. We talk about this every week. Finding your Chevrolet, new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. So why not start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City? Make a day of this. Go to Nebraska City. Go to Larson Motors. Real people.
Real deals.
Head out there.
All right. Headline number 5, odds and ends. A couple things I want to hit on. Number 1,
Yes.
transfer portal. They're going to tighten it up a little bit, or, they continue to evolve the window. There was some talk about just getting rid of the spring window altogether. What we're going to see is a 20-day December window. And then, so from December 9th through the 28th, and then a 10-day April window, April 16th through April 25th. Now, Nebraska had been playing their spring game, later than that. So you wonder if that's going to still be the case, if Nebraska would, keep their spring game.
What would you suggest?
I would just do it. I mean, it would protect your roster to keep practices going on. Then you kind of find out. I mean, but the guys that want to leave are going to leave.
How does it affect you going to get players is the question, not players that you might
they can
get.
always enter, and then you have all summer. Like Sierra Wright.
Mhm.
Like you just have to enter. You don't have to declare your new school. You have to enter. Now, if there is a head coaching change, you will still continue to get 30 days.
Okay.
So it went from a 45-day window to now 30 days of windows available. And I believe it was 60 at one point, where it was a 30-day spring and
Pretty
a
short window now, Sean.
So, yeah, I think they're trying to cut back on the tampering of teams trying to circle back around and steal players. But the bottom line is, if a player wants to transfer, they're going to figure out ways to transfer.
Right. The conversation, I suppose it won't. Okay, now you don't know how the rest of the season is going to go. But at Nebraska, this hasn't been all that. I mean, Nebraska just hasn't been very active. Players don't leave Nebraska, is what I'm saying. Not many. I don't want to say they don't, because a few do. But
I mean, coveted players. Like, I would say that one of the last coveted players they lost, Ernest Hausman.
How about the running back that went to Miami?
AJ Allen.
Yeah, I think he was.
Casey Rogers was a coveted player. And played for Oregon.
Yeah,
but there's not a lot of them.
Nope, I know.
So if you're like a lower tier player with minimal game film and maybe not much of a recruiting resume as a recruit, it is hard to leave and get the same money you're getting. But you're going to have to see players now be cut loose if they go to the 105-man rosters. There's going to be a lot of players everywhere cut loose.
So they'll be in the portal.
Yeah.
There'll be some good players available.
No question. And signing day adjustments. Look,
okay.
National letter of intents are going to now be replaced by financial aid agreements and revenue share agreements. There still will be an early signing day on December 4th, as well as February 5th this year, but they're not going to sign the traditional letter of intents. They're going to be financial aid agreements and revenue share documents.
That's kind of a semantics deal right
there.
there.
I mean, I felt like when you first read this, it was like, oh, wow, maybe Bo Pelini's idea from 15 years ago is going to happen. Remember, Bo Pelini said, just get rid of signing day. If you want to go somewhere, you sign.
Yeah. But that's not what we're talking
about. No, there's going to be just more, because it's not the same anymore. Like, you're getting paid, there's money, and the schools will be paying you money. So like what they're paying you, I think, will have to be kind of laid down.
So the question I have for you, Sean, is, so players probably won't be sending in they won't be sending in a physical document. I mean, they're literally, coaches would wait for a physical document to be faxed.
Yeah, those days are long gone. I mean, the fax, no one even has fax machines anymore.
How would they? But they were continuing to send national letters of intent
through a phone scan program, and you send it that way.
But they would wait for them.
Yeah, and then you might FedEx the hard copy. I mean, what we had known signing. I mean, I remember my early career, February signing day was nuts.
Right.
I mean,
but even up to this past year, I want to be clear, coaches would wait on this day for those
December
national letter of intents to come in. However they came in, they would wait for them.
And the biggest thing now is they've cut out the living room, where you're not going to have any in-home visits until January. So theoretically, all your prospects are going to still be in the bag on campus, even being early enrollees.
Yep.
So the days of like, being able to barge into a recruit's house that's committed elsewhere, you just don't see it as much. You're not going to see that really ever happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And then
what else, Sean?
Finally,
odds
and ends. I want to hit on this. Bowl game projections for Nebraska. We're seeing a lot of those out there. It's fun to see. It's been a long time, my friend.
God, you got to bone up on like what bowls are out there.
I mean, I think top of the food chain for Nebraska today would be Orlando or Tampa. If they could get to the Citrus Bowl or the ReliaQuest Bowl.
That'd be awesome. So there's both are both Florida bowls.
Yeah, and they're both on December 31st.
Okay, yeah, that would be top of
that's.
I want to be clear. ReliaQuest is Florida, right?
Right. And Wisconsin went to Tampa last year as a 7-win team. So these bowl games, there is a pecking order, but they can select over another team as long as there's a 1-game difference. So if there's an 8-4 team versus 7-5 team, they have the right to sometimes take the 7-5 team over the 8-4 team.
Nebraska would be very enticing at 7 or 8.
So at 7-5, Nebraska would be treated as a 8-win team.
They'd be enticing. Why?
Because of traveling fans.
Right. Because people would be jacked.
I'll put it this way. I've already got a company that's reached out to us about organizing a bowl trip.
Really?
Yeah. And the Florida ones are very attractive to them now.
Hold on. We gotta address them. If Nebraska is 7-5, would the fan, okay, it's a hard question. Would they be jacked?
Depends on the destination. I think the other destination that would be a home run is Nashville, the Music City Bowl, because you could almost drive there if you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people would, and Nashville's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even think about when we went to Nashville for the bowl game in 2016,
Super
that was a lot of fun. Well, Nashville now is 10 times that.
Yeah.
Like it's the Vegas of the South.
It'd be super fun.
Oh, it'd be crazy.
Yeah. I'll have some Nashville hot chicken again.
Oh God.
And
we'll see Greg sweat.
Yeah, no, it is good. It's good. And that's a good stadium. Wow. I'd like to see Nebraska get into a bowl 8-4 though.
I would prefer, if I was just picking, I'd like to go to Florida.
Yeah. I would too.
It'd be nice to go down to Tampa or Orlando.
Sean, I hope people understand when I say I got to bone up on what these bowls are. It's been 6 years.
And then you do see some predictions for Charlotte.
Okay.
And that's the Mayo Bowl.
And who would you be playing? An ACC team?
ACC.
Okay.
That's your Wake Forest game.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be Wake. I wonder who that would be.
Duke.
Yeah. I don't know who's good enough right now.
You get a game like
Tech.
Somebody, yeah. And then even some outside pinstripe bowl picks. But look, Rutgers just played in that, so I would say Rutgers won't go to that again. Rutgers is a natural for the pinstripe bowl.
Yeah. I think that would be a letdown for people.
Yeah.
Pinstripe bowl.
No, you're right.
Right.
No, I think Nashville of the 2 Florida games would be the hits.
Yeah. I hate to talk about it. Yeah. I don't mind talking about being a letdown bowl. I'm not of the mind that if they go 6-6, that people would be dancing in the streets in Lincoln because Nebraska's back in the bowl business. No, that'd be disappointing. They win one more game. That's all that would be. That would be hard to sell progress.
Well, and if you look at it like based on metrics, Vegas odds had them favored. If you count the Illinois game and the upcoming schedule, they're going to be favored in 8 games and they won 7. Or 6, like that's how you have to look at it. They were favorites in these first 6. They did lose the Illinois game as a 7.5 point favorite.
Overtime. Or
was it 9.5?
I don't know. I can't remember.
It was more than 7.5.
Okay. And
then Indiana, Ohio. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. But again, join us tomorrow night at Zipline. We're going to be out there, live show, prizes, tacos on special, pints of beer. Last time we drew well over 200, close to 300 folks came out to watch the live show.
God, it's going to be beautiful.
We are set up much more for this. Nobody was prepared for that kind of crowd because there's never been a turnout like that for a local show.
Right. And it was amazing. It was like a line out the door.
Oh, nobody could have predicted that because there's never been anything done like it.
Right.
In Lincoln for just like a regular during the week show.
So we're hoping we kind of make this a regular occurrence.
And we're going to be on the outside patio. So there's going to be a lot of room and then you can still go inside. It's going to be 87 degrees.
Yes. Gorgeous.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Prizes, as I mentioned. Also, if you're not a member of Husker Online, we got a great promo right now. We're going to give you $40 off an annual by using the promo code Husker40 at checkout. That's promo code Husker40. and you'll get $40 off an annual subscription to Husker Online.
Ooh.
For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan, signing off for another edition of Husker Online Headlines.